black barrier every single day, every weekend, 24/7. It does not matter.
Tell them what breaking the black barrier mean, man. What
Come
they
on,
look
man.
like?
What is black, man?
What is black?
Copper Color Productions, man.
Huh?
The Copper Color King, King Cash, Moles, and Money, man. Let's get it.
Black King, stand up for understand what black is. It's the essence, it's the culture. We've been on this earth, you heard? The Bronx was called for Apache. Huh? The Bronx was called for Apache, man. Oh, last breed, bro. We bringing it back, last breed.
Really forever flying in this bitch, man. For the ancestors, baby. All the ancestors out there, baby.
Love, man, love, peace and love, y'all. Peace and love, man. The Copper Color King, man. We back with another banger, man. Some more breaking the black barrier, and I got some dope content for you guys today, man. We are back, and I've been going for what, a week? We've been going for a week. We ain't putting nothing out related to the breaking the black barrier segment for what, like an entire week now. So I'm about to give y'all some really good, dope, much needed, very interesting and informative fire. Do you know where you come from? What is black? What is black? Have you guys been able to tell me what black is yet? For those who've been tuning into the segment and been watching my episodes, have you been able to decide or think about what black is so far? What is black? Because as far as I'm concerned, black to me is still about the culture. It's not about the skin. I am copper colored. I'm the copper colored king. Copper, I'm brown skin. I'm black. I'm melanated. I'm all of these different words that describe my skin complexion, that describe my light skinned brothers and sisters and my dark skinned brothers and sisters. We are all melanated. But I just go by the copper color king, man, because all of this stuff is relatable to me. Copper color. I love the theme behind it. I love it. But yeah, like I said, if you tuned into the last one, then I'm pretty sure you guys have been up to date. The last one we spoke about the Creek Indians, the different tribes of the Mississippi area, how those people could have been brown, we spoke about a lot. Go tap into that one. That was a really good episode, and I provided a lot of much needed, much essential information that'll give us a better understanding of the people who inhabited this continent prior to Christopher Columbus. There was a lot of them people, man. There was a lot. And all we could do now at this point is just pay homage. We're going to keep paying homage, keep showing love to our ancestors, showing love to the people who existed here once before. It's in our blood. No matter what you say, no matter what anybody say, no matter how many times people say stuff like, oh, you just want to join the white man. You want to join the southern honky white man. That's what they saying in the TikTok comments. So you just want to sound white. Dude, I saw the pictures. I saw the family members. I'm doing the ethnological research. I'm reading the books, and I'm seeing what these different folks is saying, the accounts that they're making and how they're describing these people. I've even seen the census records. We're going to tap into that. Also going to give you guys a piece of what we dropped prior, the very last part of that, and it basically goes over the 1790 census and the different brackets that consisted within that census. For the most part, though, I want you guys to like, comment, and subscribe, and click that notification bell to stay up to date on all this content, because we're going to keep dropping bangers, we're going to keep leveling up, and we're going to keep upping it, man. The grind don't stop. This shit don't stop. Paying homage to the ancestors, for the tribe, for the families. Copper Color King, Copper Color Productions, Morals and Money. Let's get right into it, man. Let's go. Ethnological information that they got out there for the guys, for us to go through. And it's so crazy because people don't decide. People don't want to go through these books. People don't want to read. They don't want to do no research, get no information for themselves. So we're going to do it for them. Now, what's this book right here? Let's go to the top right here. So this is the distinctive characteristics of the Aboriginal races of America. by Samuel George Morton. I guess he's a medical doctor. Author of Crania America, Crania Egyptics, and etc. Good book. Now we know that the author is a notable person, and what he's about to break down for us and the information that he's about to give us is based off of true accounts of the people who inhabited this land. And you may ask, why did I type in black skin at the top of this search bar right here? No, I didn't read this entire book yet. I've only gotten up into a certain part, but just this part alone stood out so much to me because the words they're making and the references that they're making is so much similar to the other things that I've seen. And especially when they're describing the skin color of these people. Check this out. On the Aboriginal race of America, ethnography. The analysis and classification of the races of men is essentially a modern science. At a time when nature and her other departments had been investigated with equal zeal and success, this alone remained comparatively neglected. And one of the various authors who have attempted its exposition during the past and present centuries, to many have been content with the closest theories in which facts are perverted to sustain some baseless conjecture. Hence, it has been aptly remarked that Asia is the country of fables, Africa of monsters, and America of systems, to those who prefer hypothesis to truth. Don't worry, I'm going to read this book too. We're going to give a lot of information coming from this book. The intellectual genius of antiquity justly excites our admiration and homage, but in vain we search its records for the physical traits of some of the most celebrated nations of past time. It has even yet gravely disputed whether an ancient Egyptians belonged to the Caucasian race or to the Negro. And it was not for the light which now dawns upon us from their monuments and their tombs. This question might remain forever undecided. The present age, however, is marked by a noble zeal for these inquiries, which are daily making man more conversant with organic structure, the mental character, and the national affinities of the various and widely scattered tribes of the human family. Among these, the Aboriginal inhabitants of America claim our special attention. The vast theater has been thronged from immemorial time by numberless tribes which lived on to destroy and be in turn destroyed without leaving a trace. That's crazy. This last sentence alone just explains all of this in a nutshell. The numberless tribes, so many tribes, man. You know, of course they was fighting and fighting over land and killing each other, but eventually got destroyed without leaving a trace. We don't know where we come from. All we know is that we're black. Some of us have brown skin, dark skin. Doesn't matter. All we know that what's on that birth certificate, on that ID card, it just says black. Nothing else connects to it, right? That's crazy. Now, of their sojourn on the face of the earth, he's finishing off from this last part. Contrasted with these were a few civilized communities whose monuments awaken our surprise without unfolding their history. And he who would unravel their mysteries may be compared in the language of the poets to a man standing by the stream of time and striving to rescue from its waters the wrecked and shattered fragments which float onward to oblivion. The wordplay that they're using to describe what happened to these people, it's crazy, man. It is not my present intention even to enumerate the many theories which have been advanced in reference to the origin of the American nations. Although I may in the sequel inquire whether their genealogy can be traced to the Polynesians, Mongolians, Hindus, Jews, or Egyptians, nor shall I attempt to analyze the views of certain philosophers who imagine that they have found not only a variety of races, but several species of men among the aborigines of this continent. It is chiefly my intention to produce a few of the more strikingly characteristic traits of these people to sustain the position that all American nations, excepting the Eskimo, are of one race. All American nations, excepting the Eskimo, are of one race, and that this race is peculiar and distinct from all others. So now listen to the physical characteristics that they give these indigenous people in this book, right? It is an adage among travelers that he who has seen one tribe of Indians has seen all, even though we know all of them weren't the same skin complexion. So much do the individuals of this race resemble each other. Notwithstanding their immense geographical distribution and those differences of climate which embrace the extremes of heat and cold, the half-clawed Fuegan, shrinking from his dreary winter, has the same characteristics, lineaments, though in an exaggerated degree, as the Indians of the tropical plains. And these again resemble the tribes which inhabited the region west of the Rocky Mountains, those of the Great Valley of the Mississippi, the Muskogee, and those again which skirt the Eximo on the north. All possess alike the long, lank, black hair, the brown or cinnamon colored skin. The long, lank, black hair and the brown or cinnamon colored skin. Full and compressed lips and the salient but dilated nose. Listen to those, right? And then in this part it states, it cannot be questioned that the physical diversities do occur, equally singular and explicable, as seen in different shades of color, varying from a fair tint to a complexion almost black. And this too under circumstance in which climate can have a little to or no influence. So also in reference to stature, the differences are remarkable in the entire tribe, which moreover are geographically proximate to each other. These facts, however, are mere exceptions to a general rule and do not alter the peculiar physiognomy of the Indian, which is as undeviatingly characteristic as that of the Negro. What does that say? These facts, however, are mere exceptions to a general rule and do not alter the peculiar physiognomy of the Indian, which is as undeviantly characteristic as that of the Negro. Who are the Negroes? People like you and I. We are the Negroes, the copper-colored peoples, the brown cinnamon skin-toned people. For those who aren't familiar with the color of cinnamon, we all know what cinnamon looks like. It's a darkish brown, like a very brownish brown. That's cinnamon. Something similar to my complexion, probably a little bit darker. Same thing as copper, damn near. Same exact thing. So these are the descriptions that they have for the inhabitants of the Americas, the aboriginals of the Americas. Brown, fair to dark brown, light skin to dark brown, copper color, tawny, ruddy, all of these different words that you can use to describe a darker skinned person. And this is all from an authenticated text, an authenticated book. You could vouch for the people that's writing this book. You could vouch for it. And as I continue to read through this book, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to see way more facts and details relating to the skin color of these inhabitants. I just wanted to show you guys that, just to give y'all some more breakdown pretty much on what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with copper-colored individuals. We're dealing with darker skinned people. And there's no ducking that smoke no more. We can't duck that smoke no more. There's nothing that we can really hide from. There's nothing that you can deny. If you got it in your family, just justify it and, stand up for it. Try to get a little bit closer to that side of your family so that you can understand. You can understand your family history. or the history behind the inhabitants of America in general. Now, something else I wanted to show you guys. Actually, I wanted to bounce back to this because we was going to touch bases on it in the last thing that in the paper genocide segment that I put out, and it's basically giving another explanation of what paper genocide is all about, and just listen to what they have to say about the darker skinned people that's such as you and I, you know, because all of this right here, after a certain amount of time, going into the 1700s and whatever the case may be, it started to become a color game. You know, we can't enslave all the Indians because some are mulattoes, some are light skinned, you know, some might have white ancestry, you know, you got black people mixing with white people, Indians mixing with white people, you know, everything is getting lost in the ancestry due to all the mixing. So, you know, after a while, they decided, screw that, we just gonna make everybody who has darker skin or some type of black skin a slave. And this all comes from theories like eugenics, what else? Paper genocide, the black codes, stuff like that, things like that that were very prevalent at that time that affected people who look like me, who may look like King Cash, or who may just look like you and your family members. But let's get into it, right? I'm not going to continue to chat. I just want to keep dropping bombs for you. Now, this was from an article that I found probably about 2 to 3 months ago, probably 4 months ago, sorry to say, or it's right here in August, yep, a couple months ago, from Cultural Survival, and it's titled, Black History Includes Native American and African American Generational and Historical Trauma. Now, we went through this book somewhat already, but I want to go through it, this text somewhat already. I want to go through it fully, completely, so that we can have an understanding. Check out the corn, the maize, the organically grown maize. Paper genocide is a term used to describe the intentional destruction of documents and records related to a particular group of people, usually with the intent of erasing their histories and cultures. In the United States, it has been used as a ploy to destroy the histories of Native American and African American cultures. Many scholars, historians, and museums contribute to the historical wrongdoings by publishing works that further their oppression of Native Americans. The term is also used in reference to the destruction of records related to Native Americans, such as the destruction of treaties and other documents related to their land rights. When the first census was taken in 1790, census takers who came into the Native American communities collected race classification data based upon the way they perceived the community members to look like, using categories of red, black, white, Negro, and Indian. Now you see, if black and Negro is the same thing, why do they have it as two different categories? And let's not forget, red is also in there too. Red man, which is like Adam, such as Adam and Eve, it means red man or man of colored skin. The original man, the aboriginal man, that's what it means. Basically, red, black, and Negro and Indian all mean the same thing because all of these people are of some type of melanated skin complexion, right? Or even mulatto. Throughout the years, there has been a decrease in the number of Native Americans on paper, which endorses headlines such as Last of the Mohicans and Last of the Montauk's. Now, this type of stuff is what gives people the idea that the tribes have died out and all of the people are dead and gone, and that, you know, you can't find no more history about the Native Americans and that their history ends in the 1800s, whatever the case may be. No, it ends with the formation of the census. That's where it ends. That's where the tribal history ends, for us at least, when we were made black. Americans, the teaching of this information contradicts their heritage. Even in the classroom, students are punished for speaking out and correcting the teacher. But how can all of the Indians be dead when I am I don't know what that word is, when I am in the classroom? How come this map does not show where my tribe is? These are a few of the questions children ask in early education. or Children in Early Education Acts. You got questions, man, coming to breaking the black barrier. I can show y'all the list of all these different tribes. These teachers ain't gonna give y'all this information. You really have to go out there and do the research and get the information yourself. And as they move through their educational career, they begin to ask less and less and less. Right? Okay, we're gonna start right here because it's a lot. Many of the most highly regarded institutions were created to assimilate and destroy the culture of Native Americans. This pattern has continued since the graduation of Caleb Chesapeake, who was from one Wampanoag tribe in New England. He was the first Native American to graduate from Harvard College in 1655. Two other Wampanoag people started school with him, however, they dropped out. Remember that this was a period directly after the Pequot Massacre, something that we're definitely going to cover throughout these series, just to go over the historical standpoints, regardless if these people were black or dark-skinned, light-skinned, fair-skinned, doesn't matter. It all has to do with the Aboriginal history, and that's what we're going to touch bases on, which ended around 1634 and resulted in the Treaty of Hartford, ordered by Governor John Winthrop. The school itself was abandoned after King Philip's War, which ended around 1676 and resulted in a period of uncontrolled colonial expansion that is ongoing today. You know, something else that happened after King Philip's War, a lot of these Wampanoag and Pequot Indians were sent to the Caribbean islands. They were shipped to the Caribbean islands to live the rest of their lives as slaves. Got the proof for y'all. Stay tuned. We're going to drop that one a little later. These wars were an example to all surrounding tribal communities that they would not be only genocide. They would not only be genocide to their people through massacre, but also through legal documentation. Paper genocide. Chesapeake grew up in an oppressed system where children witnessed the slaughter of their mothers, fathers, siblings, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and leaders of their tribes. Children were severely punished and often murdered for uttering a word in their language or mentioning their tribal community. If they showed any practice of their cultural traditions and way of life, it could result in execution. They were not allowed to practice any of their cultural mourning customs and had to move through school without expressing their emotion about their friends or family who had been punished. Any child that witnessed these harsh punishments experienced what is known as unresolved grievance, something that kids experience till this very day. Unresolved grievance. A lot of these young brothers is out here living with that unresolved grievance, and they don't even know it. They've been playing this system on us for so long that it's still affecting us today. And even when we don't identify as Indians or as our tribal lineages or whatever the case may be, they still find a way to hit us with that fire, man. And it's so crazy because it's all in the information. So as I'm reading these things, I'm stopping and I'm saying to myself, like, damn, we really got to break the black barrier, because this shit comes with a lot of mental pain, emotional pain, unresolved grievance. You don't know where you come from. And if you ask a question or if you show any emotion about it, then you get done dirty. That's crazy. Imagine having to go through school while your parents is outside working fields or getting massacred and murdered, and you're witnessing it and you can't even ask why. You know, I got some proof for y'all too in another article that talks about how, the first slaves to the British and to the English and to the French, and how they used to treat these people, and how they just used to come and scoop their kids up and instantly make them servants. It's either servitude or die. It's crazy. And then they put you in debt. Same thing that they do today. It's a whole lot. And this is why you have to educate yourself financially, because if you're not up on game financially, you will get done dirty in this world. Seriously, it's crazy. But right, The disruption of mourning practices can cause severe psychological trauma. The disruption of mourning practices can cause severe psychological trauma. Individuals may find it challenging to maneuver through life with unresolved grievance that will affect them generationally. Damn, man. Crazy, bro. Crazy, bro. We read this part for y'all in the more recent one of our older episodes, but we're gonna go over it again. Native American and African American histories are intertwined. One shared history is the ship named Desire, which landed in Massachusetts Bay Colony shortly after the Pequot Massacre, carrying enslaved Africans in exchange for Native American cargo in 1637. Captain John Mason wrote to the governor of Massachusetts Bay Colony, John Winthrop, "The captives we took, we divided, intended to keep them as servants, but they could not endure that yoke." Mason was responsible for the first trade of native enslaved people. The remainder of the Pequots that survived the massacre were sold off in exchange for African enslaved people. Indian enslaved people were recognized as property in all English colonies and were openly bought and sold at public and private sales like Negroes and any other property. It's crazy, but we are also going to dodge the hijack, because for those who don't know, and I also have this proof for y'all too, they took a lot of the Caribs and Arawaks and indigenous folks who were on the on the islands of Jamaica and the island of Barbados. They was taking them people from them islands and bringing them over here, the Caribs and the Arawaks. And for those who don't know, those people were of a darker skin. So when they're sharing these accounts and documenting this stuff, I can see why they'll slip up and put Africans, because they don't do their research their damn self. But I have those facts for y'all. And like I said, if you guys just keep following the channel and keep following the content, I'm gonna keep pulling these facts out, keep pulling them out, just to show you guys that you really got to be careful when you're reading this information and you're going over this information, because when you go to do your own family research, and then you hear something like, yeah, your family was brought on a ship from Barbados, you may think like, oh, okay, African. But when you do the research, you figure out that it was a native Arawak or a native Carib. Right? Listen to this part. The publishing of scientific evidence of racial classifications by Carl van Linnaeus in 1735 created the division among communities that is still widely accepted till this day. Van Linnaeus developed the first modern study of man, Systema Naturae, a taxonomic system based on a criterion of skin color. He defined Homo americanus as reddish, bad-tempered, stubborn, contented, and regulated by customary rights, basically calling them savages. That's what they call them, savages. Homo Europaeus as white, fickle, confident, blue-eyed, gentle, and covered by laws. Homo Asiaticus as shallow, grave, defiant, greedy, and ruled by opinions. And Homo Africanus as black, controlled, manipulative, lazy, lustful, careless, and governed by caprice. Now, I want you guys to remember this part right here. Remember this part, because what I'm going to show y'all is basically comes from an article that talks about Indian slavery in South Carolina and how they describe these Indians in South Carolina to be extremely lazy, manipulative, lustful, careless, and governed by caprice, using these exact same terms to describe the Indians of the South Carolinas. So, if you're describing the natives of South Carolina with these exact same terms, and the person who coined these terms described Homo Africanus people by these exact same terms, then what separates the Indians of the South of the South in America from the Africans who are so-called manipulative, lazy, lustful, and careless? As far as I'm concerned, we did all the work. We knew the land. We grew the crops. We did the planting. We did the hunting. We did the killing. We did the feeding, protecting, and providing for our families. So who really was the lazy ones? If you coming over here and you're using our labor, our bodies as labor, come over here and work your ass off like how they do now. Get a job how most foreigners got to do now. That's how you do it. Yeah, they used us as the work. So how can you sit there and consider us lazy, let alone our brothers and sisters from across the way? Because they put in pain. The Mali Empire, Songhai Empire, they put in pain. The Yoruba, those people, they put in pain on that side. They walk with them buckets on their head, like they put in pain. Agriculturalists specialized in their land could go days if they can without eating. Their fasting is on a whole nother level. So who's really lazy? I look at stuff like this and I just think like, damn, like other than the hijack of the reddish, bad temper, stubborn and contented, and then calling African as black, controlled and manipulative because they're talking about the same people. But it's like, damn, you so delulu that you created terms like this that made you think in your own head that this is true, that this stuff is real. Bugged out. It's the delusion, man, I'm telling you. This study has impacted the social dynamics of African American people since the beginning of slavery, because living through generations in a world that classified them as less than a person creates severe psychological trauma. Now, if you've really been tuning in with Morals and Money, I spoke about this book called The Myth, the Normal by Garba Mate. And he spoke about stuff like racism and slavery and stuff like Sistema Netura being something that affects us for generations. It creates this psychological trauma that automatically puts that doubt in our heads and our kids' heads that basically makes us tell ourselves that we're not enough. That's where all of this stuff's come from. And I just want to tell you guys that you're always going to be enough. You're copper colored. You're part of the copper colored community. You're part of that melanated community, the melanated beings, the aboriginals of the world. You can do whatever you put your mind to. Straight up. When people think about black on black violence, many think of gangs and geographical wars. However, an area that is important to examine is African Americans' history and corporate America's culture. The conflict among African Americans in corporate America can be categorized by political, social, and economic inequalities. Because there are only a limited number of positions for people of color in corporate America, the Willie Lynch theory plays a significant role in the behavior of corporate culture. The Willie Lynch theory is a pseudoscientific theory that suggests African Americans can be controlled through psychological manipulation. A theory that suggests that African Americans can be controlled through psychological manipulation. So what? They tell you you're black. They distance you away from your family's history, so you don't truly know who you are or even know what you're capable of. And then you fast forward to now, all of the things that our family members were doing, such as farming, specializing in the land, hunter and gathering, and taking care of their family with the stuff that comes from the earth, that Yah put on the earth. They took all of that stuff away. They took our identities away. They took everything else. They took everything away from us. Even took the true meaning of the gangs away from us. Because if you know, then you know why them gangs started, and that was to protect the community. Black Panthers, they took the true meanings of all of that stuff away from us and instilled a whole new meaning in it and gave us false representations and false idols that we use today and that we look up to, that kind of affect and create the culture that we live in today, the black culture that we live in today, which is so violent. So it really makes you think. The Willie Lynch theory is possibly true. It can be true, but you really just have to have a strong mental, and you have to connect to your roots to dodge all of this stuff, to dip and dodge in it. And this is why we got breaking the black barrier, because we want to break this black barrier and help people get in touch with their roots. When you get in touch with your roots and you learn where you come from, then you know where you're going. Take off like a rocket. Let's go. Right, so it was proposed by Willie Lynch, an 18th century slave owner. Such behaviors, which are forms of lateral violence, include not speaking to acknowledging one another, crabs in a barrel behavior, which refers to a syndrome where a group of people in a similar circumstance hurt others in order to get ahead, isolating or disassociating ones from other African Americans, viewing one others as competition, and withholding vital information from others to navigate through as an organization. And this is what holds us back, ladies and gentlemen. All of those things hold us back. All of these things hold us back. And it's sad. From the earliest period of European colonization, stereotypes of Native Americans portrayed the good Indian who helped the Europeans and the bad Indian who resisted the Europeans. Common stereotypes are brave warriors and seductive princesses. Although these images mask the reality of Native American culture, often members of the tribal community divided themselves based on these stereotypes. So if the tribal members of the community used the Willie Lynch theory to pretty much separate their native cultures and stuff like that, and this Willie Lynch theory allegedly only works with African Americans, then what that tells us about the good Indians and the bad Indians and this whole theory in general. What does that tell us? You really got to think about it. You just got to think deep and go back into the roots and go back into the history. Now, this ends with this one. I just want to touch bases on one more thing with you guys before we end this one right here, because I'm gonna be dropping some more content. The next one that I'll put out is gonna be touching bases with the Yamasee War, the slavery, the indentured servitude and slavery of the indigenous people of South Carolina and Florida and Louisiana and Mississippi, the black slave owners of South Carolina, Louisiana, and that area, the South in general. And we're just going to get into more information regarding the skin color of these individuals. Now, real quick. Now, I just wanted to touch bases on these people real quick. Who are the Lumbee Indians? Now, the Lumbee Indians is not a native tribe, but it is a group. It is a group of people that consists of mulattoes, darker-skinned Indians, Europeans with darker skin, and all of these different people who pretty much just mixed in to create this Lumbee tribe. So, for those who see the South in terms of black and white, the Lumbee Indians have always posed a problem. The largest Native American community east of the Mississippi, the Lumbees continue to occupy the lands they've called home for centuries. Mostly in Robeson County. If you got family from Robeson County, it's something to look into. Some people and some Lumbees still claim that they're the descendants of the Croatan Indians and the survivors of the Saul Walter Raleigh's Lost Colony. Now, some quick background on the Croatan Indians real quick. Now, if you remember that story of when they sent the first ships over here that landed in Virginia, whatever the case may be, the story goes is that they landed, and probably months later, after not returning, they sent another ship over here. And once they got here, they found the words Croatoan written in the grass or written in the sand or something. Assuming that the Croatoan Indians killed the voyagers or the settlers or whatever the case may be, they could have mixed in. They could have mixed in, and that's probably where the tribe probably began. Let's continue to go through it. Yet the Lumbees have strained relations with many other established tribes, and they fought a frustrating political battle in Washington to win the benefits that other Native communities receive. The case against the Lumbees is complex. Critics claim they don't have a traditional tribal structure. Also, their ancestry is clearly mixed. As Melinda Mayer Lowry, a Lumbee herself, notes in her groundbreaking history, the Lumbees probably descend from bands of multiple tribes. Cherokee, which is also a band of Indians that's like the Lumbees, group of mixed people, whatever the case may be. Saponi, Hateras, Tuscarora, and possibly even the remains of the Cape Fear Indians from the southeastern coast, who were pushed back into the Pocasins and swamplands in the 1700s and early 1800s. These groups of people spoke multiple languages: Algonquin, Siouan, or Iroquoian, all different linguistic stocks. So they adopted English as a lingua franca. Their very name is Lumbee, from the nearby Lumbee River, was only adopted in the 1950s. She's new. Before that, they had been referred to by the state government as Croatoans, Cherokees, although the Lumbees have no ties to the Cherokee Nation. So if your auntie or if your mom or your grandmom or whatever the case may be told you that you got some Cherokee in your blood or whatever, it could be something connected or closely related to the Croatoans. We're going to look into both of these people too in the next segment. Yet they formed tight-knit families and close communities. Joining them and intermarrying with them were a number of whites, often escaped in debtors' prisons or the hangman's noose. So these were white individuals, or most likely mulatto Europeans who were of some type of black ancestries, that were escaping the debtors or the hangmans, mixing in with more Lumbees. And the number of escaped slaves and free persons of color also could be black Europeans or darker skinned Indians. Like they said, it was a mix of all these different people. As a result, some Lumbees resemble Hollywood Indians out of central Caston, others resemble African Americans, yet others with fair hair and pale skin could attend a Klan rally. And members of all three groups could claim each other as cousins. All this doesn't matter according to Laurie. Most Indian tribes are mixtures of different groups. The difference is a holdover of 19th century racism, which held that no pure Indians could have a drop of black blood, which we know now is all cap. That's all cap. Because the black blood is here, baby. Lumbee, Tuscaroran, Croatoan, and Choctaw. Man, I'm pretty sure all of that shit is there, man. Let's go. Lowry is highly skeptical of the whole lost colony business. Although some Lumbee writers, such as Adolf Dahl in The Only Land I Know, still swear by the tale, the Croatoan theory seems to have emerged with the white state legislator Hamilton Macmillan in the 1880s, possibly for cynical political reasons. To lure the Lumbees from the Republican Party, Tar Heel Democrats offered them recognition, their own segregated school system, and own teachers' training school. That's interesting. So the Lumbees were leaning towards the Republican Party, I'm guessing, and in order to get them to lean towards the Democratic Party, for those who don't know, was founded off racism. They founded the Democratic Party off of racism and the annihilation of all colored people. They offered them recognition in their own segregated school system and own teachers training school just to get them to be Democrats. That's crazy. Still, as readers of Josephine Humphrey's classic Nowhere Else on Earth, shout out readers.
How you really go from all other free persons? You went from white males above 16. So this is why we already see that every other state other than New York City, which is crazy because New York was part of this 13 colonies, right? Why the fuck we ain't start at 16? But like I'm saying, every other state at 16, you damn near looking at an adult, right? An adult male. Females is a little different story for y'all. But you're looking at an adult male, you could drive, and then they probably was starting to vote already. But for everybody else that wasn't pale skin, that shit did not matter. We don't give a fuck who you are. You either paying or you a slave. That shit is crazy.
And it's so crazy how we could just sit there and connect it to now. Like, I mean,
Privilege.
just think about it, bro. Like, every day you go to clock in, you punch in that clock to submit in your daily 8 hours of labor, which legally can only accumulate up to 40 hours. If you go over 40, you must be paid overtime. But even still, once you get that overtime check, you're taxed.
Taxed.
Like a mud lover. I can't count how many times I've probably pulled overtime in the past, and I see my check and I look at before taxes and after taxes, and I just be like, yo, what am I working for?
Just be like, what the fuck, bro? Why did they take 600? Why? Where's that? What the fuck for, bro?
For what's going on?
600 be wild. Like, damn, bro. Niggas could be up more if you just give me my fucking money.
And then what makes it even more worse is when you factor it in and you look at what these taxes go towards. I would appreciate it more if our tax dollars went more towards more of the things that was happening in the 1790s, such as building the infrastructure of the country versus now. Our taxes are paying to destroy the infrastructure of this country.
Our taxes pay for school lunch.
School lunch.
That's horrible.
Spoiled milk.
Fake
cheese and chicken and all that. They got it bad. And then when we're looking at these states, let's just look at New York, where we from, right? New York, you had 83 free white males of 16 and over, 78,000 of under, 152,000 females, 4,000 free persons. But after that, we got 21,000 slaves documented with a total population of 340,000 people.
One of my family side definitely started in New York too, so.
And then when we go back to that chart, I'm not going to go back to it right now, but when we look at that chart that said 300,000, which is 10%, cuz said it, that's New York alone. What we see the total population of New York at the time, 340,000. I rest my case. Right? And they talking about New York as a state. This ain't the city at the time. That's the state.
The state.
I rest my case.
Upstate and here. All 5 boroughs, because there was no real boroughs.
Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts are the only states with none to small amount of slaves, none to 16. Crazy. Back to it though, right? We talked about this because we just talked about the first census, 1790, forced the local enumerator to place all free persons in 2 categories, right? White or all other free persons. That means white or what would be now black. Let's just put that out there. Right. Thus, we find in South Carolina, Jordan Chavers of Cherawa Indian, or a location. It's a tribe or a location. I'm not too, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotta switch the screen back.
Oh, you can't see it. Okay, cool. All right, I got you right now. Right here. Wrote in the specific racial stats, thus we find South Carolina, Jordan Chavers, Cherawa classified as mulatto, and Hannah Chavis of Edgefield classified as mulatto. What's the difference? The Chavis name is widely associated with Indian communities in both North and South Carolina. So Jordan Chavers and Hannah Chavis are both associated with Indian communities in North and South Carolina. It is classified as mulatto. The 1800s, 1810, 1820, and 1830 censuses used the free person of color category for most non-whites, including Indians. So 100 years later, that's basically census location would have been classified as whites or Negroes, or whites or colored. or like white or black. And if that includes Indians, what does that make Indians?
Right.
Bing bong. Let's get it. For example, the entire Cherokee Indian population of Carroll County, Georgia, was included as colored persons, with names such as Rattlesnake, Ekowa, Wata, Tanikulahi, Wasota, Kicha, Widow Simmer, Pumpkin Pow, Charles Van, and so on. In 1782, in 1850 U.S. Census, enumerators were instructed in enumerating colored persons to write B or M on the space of the schedule. The B presumably stood for black and the M for mulatto, although mixed seems to be the more correct modern rendering. In both 1850 and 1860, these racial terms were not defined by census officials. Same word, but why are they black?
My ancestors, we went all the way back, as far as I could go back to right now, it's 1850s and 1840s. And for the Ancestry.com, that shit says black. B.
And they from Louisiana. We know they Scrindians, man. Queen Warhorse said it. Chifonta. That's where we come from. The Chifonta people. That's where our tribe, our band of Choctaw natives come from. I Googled it. Poverty Point. I Googled all of this. And I got the facts and files for y'all, and they coming later. Definitely. Right. In Virginia, one finds that all of the Indians of the central Tidewater counties were classified as M, including the residents of Pamunkey and Mattapony reservations, with a few exceptions in King William County, where one or two were classified as B. Right? The same patterns appear in Norfolk County, Virginia, where many members of the Naismont Indian group living near Portsmouth were classified as M. This is especially significant since the Naismonts were categorized as I for Indian. At various dates, certificates were apparently issued to Naismont Indian people, such as the following: William Bass, the bearer, tall, swarthy, dark eyes, is of English and Indian descent with no admixture of Negro blood. Right? Hold on. I want to show y'all something real quick before we even move forward into that. And the word Swarthy also goes hand in hand with the last name Schwartz. Schwartz is a German last name, and Schwartz means black, aka Swarthy, which means aka dark skinned. So they're dark skinned people, but you telling me they not Negro?
When the whole time they was classifying everybody just as Negro. They just said that earlier in the article, did they not?
And now they saying son is tall and swarthy with dark eyes, like you and I, but he's not a Negro. Swarthy means dark skinned, which is you.
Yeah, especially. And my eyes ain't dark. They just mean my brown eyes.
Yeah,
literally, my eye, like, because my eyeball is still, it should be clear, because that means my body is healthy. But my eye, you know, when they say your eyes is brown, that's probably what you're talking about.
That is what they talking about. He has dark eyes. He does not have a light eye color. Not a blue eye. He's a dark eyed, tall, swarthy man. Like you, a tall, swarthy individual. Dark skin, but he's not a Negro. What are y'all talking about? Right? That's what get me tight. All in all, some 37% of the free people of color in 1850 were classified as M, while only 1/12 of the slaves were so categorized. It seems clear that a good many of the free people classed as M were in fact Indians or of Indian descent. In 1782, a Joseph and John Dungy are recorded as white Tillables and King William Tillables. In 1783, John Dungarry is aged 21 plus, has 4 white souls in his household and no Negroes, slaves. In 1810, slaves. This is 1783. This is 7 years before the first census. So we just saw what the categories were. So if you had all free people of color in the other category, what would have been black, or same thing as all free people of color, is slaves. They're saying Negroes are slaves. That's why they put in parentheses slaves for Negroes. 1783. In 1810, John Dungy is still listed as a white tithable. By that date, Dungies had also appeared in other Virginia counties. All are listed in the census as free colored, except for one woman in Middlesex class is white. And the situation is similar in 1820. On the tax rolls of King William County after 1813, the Dungies are all listed as mulattoes. What happened?
Seriously though.
What happened? What did they do wrong? Did they stop paying taxes?
Seriously though. No, dead ass. Because it just said the Dungies now are more Dungies, meaning they had kids. The family is getting bigger. So now more people are now being put into the census. So now that more of us are now being put into the census, we went from mulatto to one person being white. So does that mean that one mother of the family was white? Or like, what we doing here?
We would never know. Here at the bottom it says, it is helpful at the point to review a specific cases as to shed light on actual practice. An interesting one is that the Dungy family, the name appears to originate in King William County, Virginia, as is found nowhere else in the 1790 U.S. Census. Like what I just said, that first census. The first one is recorded as white tithables, and then years later they become mulattoes. Right? What happened?
Either way, they telling us that they started mixing. That's what you're trying to tell us.
Either they started mixing or they stopped paying taxes. It's one of the two. I'm jacking. Niggas went on that. Who you said got booked for it? Not paying taxes.
Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, they got on their Wesley Snipes. It was like, fuck that. We not paying taxes no more. And they lost their white privilege. That's how I see it. In 1825, an interesting document was submitted to the General Assembly of Virginia. The petitioners, John Dungy and Lucy Ann, his wife, who are free persons of color residing in King William County. That same John Dungy, they got him. John Dungy is recorded as white
as a free person of color now. Now he's a free person of color. What was the white Tungy? What was the white Tungy? What is the Tungy?
White tithable.
Tithable. What was the tithable?
Nigga, Chris.
Tungy, tithable. What the fuck is that?
It's late, yo.
What the fuck is that though?
What is it though? Like really, what is?
All right, look that up. Look that one up.
We gonna show them what tithable means?
Look that one up.
What
the fuck?
You gotta show them. Because it only makes sense, man. A subject or liable to payment of tithes. All right. Y'all want to make this harder? Type 1/10 of annual produce of earnings formerly taken as a tax for the support of the church and clergy. As support for the church and clergy.
Tax.
The tax, y'all.
What he just said, what he said the Christians do when they pass around it's time for the tithes, it's time for the tithe.
They like taxing the big dog, man. That's what they do. That's how they get right. They tax everybody, right? This is what they do. They tax everybody and then
don't do nothing in the community.
No, and nothing. You hear me? And this is why right now in America, we are going through what we are going through, because even now we pay taxes. But what is the taxes doing for the community? Well, I know one thing for sure. We ain't being treated like the Dungies. They went from white to mulatto. We ain't gonna ever go from black to white. That ain't never happened. You dig? I won't let them change not a damn thing about what's up there. Keep it like that, because we are creating legendary success right now, generational success, young legends, and y'all here to witness it, man. Straight up, two brothers who come from trenches, poverty.
So basically, he was labeled as the white tribble because he was able to pay the tariff. So after that, the Dundee family now is a free persons of color. So now they didn't change the classification like we said. Okay. And now the rest of the Dungees are not labeled as mulattoes. So I guess, all right, he had some money, but now you calling his family brokies.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And another thing that stands out to me too is the fact that the first census was published in 1790, right? So this is when they're being labeled as free people of color.
Mm-hmm.
But before a census was ever published, they were white Tithables.
Mm-hmm.
So something changed from then until the time of that first census, wherever in that area where they lived, where not only did how they look, I mean, like, not only did things change with how they were assimilating with other communities possibly, but life changed for them based off their finances. So something happened within them 7 years that forced those people into poverty, which also goes to prove that being a person of color or being black is not of skin pigmentation, but it's of our environment, of our culture, of our surroundings. Not saying we are poverty, black means poverty, but that's where you find the black culture, the black people in poverty. Even though we're gonna make it up out of this at some point, speaking for all my brothers and sisters.
And a lot of people have.
What you said, bro?
I'm saying a lot of people have.
Yeah, and a lot of people have. So, you know, pros and cons to everything. But yeah. Right. So it says his wife, who are free persons of color, reside in King William County, asked permission respectfully to represent to the Senate and House of Delegates of Virginia that year. Petitioner John, who is descended from the Aborigines of this dominion, was born free. Lucy Ann Littlepage, his wife, was an emancipated slave, half African and half white. But why is her last name Littlepage? That's not a white or African last name.
That's definitely some slave.
That is a slave, but her last name is Littlepage. It's not a white or African last name. The Ann could be a white last name. This last name is indigenous, my boy. So when they say half African, what are you talking about? Really? What you speaking on, cuh? I want to know what they talking about. Because it means the same thing. It all means the same thing. Right? Dungee is a freeborn native of Virginia, was raised in the calling of a sailor, and has for many years been the commander of a vessel. Those in Virginia and Tennessee were all classified as free persons of color. In 1840, the same is true. In 1850, all of the Dungees in King William County, Virginia, were classified as either M or B. So they went from mulatto to black now. What happened?
Yeah, they still ain't got no money and they ass got darker.
Like, what's going on? Even though all were living on or near the Mattapony or Pamunkey Indian reservations. So then what does that make these black people?
Natives.
Scrindians. Bing, bing, bing. Let's go. Let's move forward now. Right? Another case involved the Scott family of Indians in Richmond, Virginia. William Scott was listed as an Indian in the tax rolls of the 1780s. By 1810, Billy Scott was called a free person of color, with 9 in his household. By the 1850s, the oldest, William Scott in the area, age 49, was classified as an M in the census, as was his probable son. All other William Scotts were classified as either B or M in Henrico County. In 1853, the grand jury charged William Scott Sr., a free Negro, for retailing ardent spirits to be drunk at the place where sold without a license. The William Scott claiming to be an Indian in 1853 was doubtless the same person as the Scott, age 49, classed as an M on the 1850 census, since had the latter property worth $3,000 and could read. Doubtless he owned a store or shop of some kind. I'm loving these stories here because they're connecting these mulatto and free person of color and all of these terms and whatever the case may be, right?
We also did just read that they did put everybody in the same group now. So,
like, as we can see, we're seeing how the grouping is changing out of years as the years go on, right? Many other examples could be cited, including that of the widespread Going family, descended probably from Goin, an Indian servant to Mr. Thomas Bushrod, who was to be free in 1676. This Goin, in turn, may be the child of one Mihil Goin Negro, late servant. But he's an Indian. He's descended from a Negro, but he's an Indian. The Indians are the Negroes. The Negroes are the Indians. A Negro and an Indian are two entirely different classifications. A Negro more associates closely to what you look like. An Indian more closely associates to what you are a part of, the tribes, the people. Right? Gotta think about these things, man.
facts.
Going descendants are classified as free people of color, rarely as white in the census through 1840 in Virginia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. In 1850, they are usually classified as M throughout the South. In 1870, what happened, bro?
That 10 years later.
10 years later, yeah. In 1870, the term mulatto was defined by the U.S. Census officials to include quadroons, octoroons, and all persons having any respectable trace of African blood. So now they're going back to the mulattoes being Africans. Now they're going back to that again, right? Thus taking the definition far beyond the legal status of any states that date. Quite clearly, large numbers of people of Native American ancestry would be included under such a definition. So the mulattoes went from being European American, American African, African American, Native, Indian, Black, free people of color, all these different terms, and now the respectable trace is undeniably Native American ancestry. Large numbers of people would be included under such. What the hell? There you have it, bro. Like I was saying this in the beginning, that's why I was like so flabbergasted on a lot of this stuff and beasting to show you, because it's like, bro, get a load of this shit. Where would you ever find this type of stuff?
Negro, mulatto, black, mulatto, Negro, black.
Back and forth, bro. They going back and forth. They going back and forth like
When you think about it in your head, no bullshit. If you think about it in your head, it's like the motherfucking. It's like it's like the game musical chairs.
bro.
Real shit. If I really think about it in your head, on some kiddie shit, it's like the game of musical chairs. The song is playing, and we just keep picking different seats. But not even we. They keep changing the seats. Oh, nah. Then once your ass fall, you became the slave. Ho. And now, nigga, it's only one chair left. Why do you think everybody ever sometimes turn on each other?
Bro, them niggas was going back and forth like an argument. Straight up, bro. Like, back and forth.
Every decade, there was some. Every decade, it looked like it's something new. That's what that means.
Back and forth, bro. Back and forth. They could not find no way to settle this. I guess they figured out how to settle it when they found a way to group us all together, finally. Like,
and the history that we really think about is history that started in the 1900s and on.
But this shit years and years old, bro. Look, you see, In 1880 and 1900, there were no published instructions, but in 1890, a black was defined as a person of 3/4 or more of black blood. What is black blood? Other persons with any proportion of black blood being classified as mulattoes, quadroons, or octroons in 1910. So I was an octroon and a quadroon? Two? In
What the
1910.
fuck is that? This shit sound like the shape.
Those are shapes, bro. Octagon and shit like that.
Niggas is shapeshifters. That's what they
Yo,
call
bro,
avatars.
they
Avatars.
they the real shapeshifters. They the real shapeshifters, man. They the real shapeshifters, man. They ain't gonna talk, man. Them niggas be reptilians and all that shit, man. I mean, 1910 black included all full-blooded Negroes, while mulatto included all other persons having some perceptible trace of Negro blood.
Now we get into probably our, not the greats, but for me, my grandparents, because they was born in motherfucking 1920.
Look at the dates.
1930, I know.
Yeah.
1940 census.
1930, 1940, yeah. For example, the 1930 census takers were instructed to count as Indians those of mixed white and Indian ancestry, except where the percentage of Indian blood is very small, or when the person is regarded as a white person, where he lives. But this same reasoning was not applied to the African American hybrids. Such people shall be returned as Negro unless the Indian blood predominates, and the status as an Indian is generally accepted in the community. So we're not Indian, right? We Negroes, we black, right? But you're not going to be Indian unless they can accept you in the community. And you won't find out your blood unless you're accepted in the community. We're not accepted fully in their communities now, are we? I don't think so.
And then that's how they started acting. Only the light-skinned people was accepted.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's not even like the only light-skinned people. Only the Asiatic mongoloid looking one that we see, the Tonto, the that we see on TV, the Hollywood Indian. Only that one is accepted now. Even if you are light-skinned, like Clemmy, great grandma Clemmy, she was a slave. I mean, her mother was a slave. Her mother's mother was a slave. So, but they were light-skinned. Yeah, I mean, they just didn't look like the indigenous folks you see on TV. They look more like what black light-skinned people would look like. Yeah, I mean, but it's crazy though, because now that's just the part that boils my blood, because I won't even seek the acceptance. I don't want to be accepted, like I said in the joint, bro. I don't care about no Indian card. We can start this from the ground up ourselves. You understand? And we can't be stopped if we all stick together. I mean, it might not happen, but we can't be stopped. Started from the ground up, everybody return back to the roots, start practicing the cultural ways, fasting, eating good foods, exercising. I mean, being financially responsible, learning about taxes and assets and money so they can't do this again to us. They can't catch us again. They caught our grandparents and our parents and all of that.
You gotta learn the game so you can play the game and teach the game.
I ain't even going front. The other day, my pops called the mosque an Indian reservation. He fake got me tight. Because you disrespecting two sides of the coin that I kind of like. What is you saying? One is one, the other is the other. You are a member of the reservation. My brother, that's where your mama's mama came from. Understand that and get it.
Crazy part is, motherfuckers ain't even know it, and they wasn't even asking questions for it.
Not even close, bro. But this is why King Willow, King Cash, we here to break the black barrier. This is the start, baby. And we just need everybody that's watching and supporting to finish. That's it. Start, y'all finish. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, like we said, 1930 census takers, blah, 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 hybrid. Such people shall be returned as Negro unless the Indian blood predominates, blah, blah, blah. The 1940 census instructions required that the American African hybrid. When I see this,
African.
I'm getting tight because I'm reading it as African American. I'm so
That
adjusted
ass,
to
though.
that. That's
That
how
ass.
I'm reading it.
American African hybrid is crazy. Then
That's how I'm reading it. What is it insinuating though?
we a hybrid strand now.
This niggas just called me some Zaza.
Niggas is a hybrid strand now.
Called the guys some Zaza, bro. That's crazy, bro. But yeah, African American hybrids to be counted as Negroes unless the native ancestry very definitely predominates, and he is universally accepted in the community as an Indian. Thus, although the term mulatto ceases to be used in the U.S. Census, the general tendency is to use the term Negro to include all Indian black persons who earlier would have been categorized under the former term. In short, mulatto had become subsumed completely under Negro.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 1900s, so that means you Negroes, y'all families is mulattoes. I know this is true because I got light skins and brown skins and dark skins in my family. You do too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We can reasonably be certain, I would suggest that in many parts of the country, white census takers would have counted as Negro virtually all Indians showing African ancestry, except in counties where the Indian openly resisted such a classification. So if you resist it, you got it. But if you were Indian and you look black and you look African, you're a Negro.
Off rip. It wasn't even asking you.
Right? And as y'all can see here, I got the musty, mulatto, Negro, European, assuming all Negroes are light skin. You know, I had to add the
again, I'm gonna repeat myself. They was not asking you, because they ask you now, what is your preference? We gotta ask people, what do you consider yourself to be?
Real spill.
They were not asking you. They looked at you and said, okay, boom, wrote it down. They probably even didn't tell him. Then they just gave him the piece of paper.
Big facts.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's even crazier when they went and did the slave schedules and the documentations for that, because we had people who had big families who, in order to avoid slavery, listed their kids as slaves, as if they were doing work around the farm. Listed their kids as slaves. They weren't slaves, but in order to keep their family safe, they did that. All right. She states that the servant but non-slave class included mulatto servants whose servitude was the penalty for having a white mother and an Indian Negro mulatto father. After 1723, for being descended in a maternal line from such a combination of ancestors. 1704, a British writer refers directly to an Indian as mulatto. He writes, I shall observe your caution, says my mulatto comrade, the Indian. Mulatto. Where we at? In 1715, South Carolina English missionaries baptized a mulatto girl whose mother had reported as an Indian and whose father, he said, was a white trader. During the period 1717-1721, an Englishman named Hugh Jones lived in Virginia. 1724, he published a book in which he stated the slave children belong to the master of the woman that bears them, and such are born of a Negro and European are called mulattoes, but such are born of an Indian and Negro are called musties. So if you Indian and Negro, you musty.
Back to that one.
Back to that one, bro. Classifications given included dark black. From 1803, the Civil War, of all free people of color in Virginia were required to register. If register for Essex County has survived, and in it we find many Indian people listed, but none are called Indians. Classifications given include black, dark brown, tawny, very dark mulatto, shade lighter than the dark mulatto, bright mulatto, very bright mulatto, and very bright mulatto, almost white. What the hell?
It means it's people that fought for the colonies.
But this is crazy though, because tawny already means dark skin. Mulatto means brown skin. So you're saying you're very dark brown skin, dark brown skin, a shade lighter than dark brown, which is light skin, bright mulatto, which is also light skin, very bright mulatto, which is also light skin. Never ending circle, man. One more example will be given to show the term mulatto was regularly used to include persons of a part Indian ancestry. In North Carolina, in the 1870s, a white woman wrote a book about the people now known as the Lumbee Indians of Robeson County. I got Lumbee blood. These people aren't native peoples full and full. They're a mixture of different groups of peoples. But what they about to say is 100% true, though. I ain't gonna lie. Lumbees and take notes of white and Indian as well as African ancestors. This is true. Nonetheless, all are referred to as bright mulattoes, light mulattoes, or simply as mulattoes. My grandmother's father's father, Berton Cumbo, is labeled as a mulatto because of the European and Indian ancestry. She notes that the area of their settlement was called Scuffletown, from the act of the mulattoes inhabiting that region congregating in Laurie's grocery. That's where my family comes from, that area. A similar situation existed in Tennessee where the so-called Melungeon people, probably Saponi Powhatan of Hawkins, Granger, and nearby counties, were often classified as free-colored and mulatto, right? But occasionally also as white. A white writer of 1890 asserted of these people, a great many declare them mulattoes. And we're going to stop right there for you guys. It was a lot more going on in there, but I'm going to conclude this real quick just to give y'all an idea of what they meant by Melungeons, if I could find it before we run out of time. And when they talk about these Melungeons, and they mention who these people were and that they could have been black, and you know, that all of that, whatever the case may be, and that they got color, their skin pigmentation has color, whatever the case may be. I just want to show y'all something. So this is what I got.
A dark mulatto will deadass be me.
Yeah, that would be you. Straight up, bro. That's what I'm saying. You got to look at these terms.
Nigga, chocolate, dark. They should just said chocolate.
You're tawny. We said it. Tawny mulatto.
But I'm saying, like, you see how we, like, motherfuckers be like, all right, motherfucker, chocolate. They should have just said chocolate.
Yeah, but they
fucking
can't.
Chocolate drop.
They're not going to embrace us enough like that, because people, cacao, where chocolate comes from, the cacao seed is one of the most nutritious things that you could consume on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they even remind us
dark
of
chocolate?
We don't want to remind you of that.
Good nutrients are in dark chocolate.
And I want to show y'all this too.
I wonder why they love.
Look, we just saw that term Melungeon. This is one of my ancestors, the French European Huguenot. Michael Desloges from France. He was a French Huguenot refugee who departed Bristol, England in 1663 for the Virginia colony. French Huguenot, the Melungeons. So they just said they were mulattoes. They were darker skinned people. I'm showing y'all this to also introduce a more later topic that we got coming called the introduction of the blackamoors, the true blackamoors.
See the bottom though? It says following the American Revolution, they began moving westward toward Tennessee, to Kentucky, Alabama, and other states for the American frontier.
Yes, sir. Thank you for tuning in, you guys. It's Breaking the Black Barrier. Make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe, man. Let's get it.
Let's get it, balls and money. We out.
CDC when I'm out in Nevada. Like boo, like Doja Gabbana. Fuck niggas, stay away from